Welcome back, boys. Welcome back to our potty. We've got a big thing coming up, our Banjo Christmas Party. Memorable every year, but this year we're doing it slightly differently. We've got a weight loss challenge.
Yep.
How are you guys going with that?
Not great. Easy answer. I've been trying, and then I come home stressed, and then I'll just eat like whatever I can find. So
Yeah.
How about yourselves?
Yeah, I think we had a chat about this recently. Like, I don't think I'm going to see weight loss in a month's time, but I have made lifestyle changes because when it comes to competition, I get interested. So I really want to compete. So I did take it a bit seriously, but then same time, I think 1 month after so many years of bad habits, 1 month's not going to fix it. But I have made lifestyle changes, and hopefully in the long term we'll see changes there.
Yeah.
So
When you say lifestyle changes, what do you mean?
like, just I had some bad habits with snacking and just eating rubbish food and eating at wrong times. So like I've made some changes there where it's like, stop the snacking, eat better sort of snacks. So, I used to eat like muffins all the time, and now I change it to apples, things like that,
Wow. Impressive.
So things small changes like that where hopefully we'll
Apple
make a change.
muffins.
So I had a lot of bad habits, which hopefully now will change.
Yeah, it's good. One of the reasons the only reason we're doing a weight loss challenge is whoever loses the least weight is Santa for the kids. So
That was horrible last year when I was Santa. All the kids were scared of me, even my own son.
yeah, first up, everyone saw Sri Lankan Santa.
How did you get nominated last year?
Well, I think we did like
It was a random.
names in a hat or something, or
I think it was some random number generator or something, wasn't it?
yeah,
On your phone or something, and somehow I kept winning. Well, I wouldn't call it a win, but yeah.
yeah. Beer of the week, guys. This is a bit different. It's not a beer; it's a ginger beer. I don't know if you guys have seen. There's a massive section now on ginger beers in the bottle shops. This is, I don't know what brand this is.
It says brought to you by Vodka Soda and...
Thanks, Ash.
So should we crack it open? Or?
Let's crack it open. Sounds good. What do you guys think? Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Let's try it out.
Cheers to vodka soda and... Oh, yes.
It's refreshing.
That's not like the ginger beer I used to have before. Like I used to hate ginger beer. It's
Yeah.
actually not bad.
Yeah, it says add a wedge of lime. It's good. Yeah, every company's doing a ginger beer now. Better Beer, Great Northern. Must be the market.
It doesn't have that real like that beer alcoholic taste after.
That's right,
So
yeah.
it just goes pretty smooth. It's almost like a bit like a CC and dry, right? Like
It's got the...
No,
A little wedge.
Don't compare to CC Dry, mate.
I wouldn't say CC and dry. What's the other one? CC and is it soda?
Oh yeah, yep.
The other one, not dry, but the dry just because with that ginger ale, right? So you got that bit of that ginger taste, which is taste side, so.
CC Dry is the best one out there.
Hubert's getting triggered by this.
Yeah.
All right, mate.
What piqued my interest about this? So when I was at the pub watching the Cricket World Cup final, all the Indians were buying this, and obviously the shorts with Coke or whatever. So I was like, this must be the choice of drink for non-victorious people. Which is a good
Where is this going?
which is a good segue into...
This is the loser beer.
Wow.
Okay. Good segue into big moments, eh? Imagine dominating a whole tournament and losing in the final hurdle. Lucky it wasn't super embarrassing, but it is, I guess, when your strength is your batting, when they don't show up. There's something about big finals, big moments and pressure moments. And India's one team that, like many teams in different sports, haven't really delivered because of various things. Obviously, the pressure of how many ever, was it 1.4 billion people on their shoulders. But what is it? What is it, Hubert? You've led a very successful cricket team before.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to those big games, it is a different game. Like it's not like you play normal round robin games. The pressure's not on you. some people can perform really well. When the pressure's on you, it can change the way players perform on the day. And that's why, I remember a lot of people talking about, India were the better team of the tournament, but it doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, that game that matters, you have to turn up in that game. And I think that's what Australia's proven for a long time now, where they're big game players. And they also always have produced those players. And they came out that day. And, they showed what, the Australian spirit is,
Yeah.
Come there for the big games, pressure's on, it doesn't faze them.
Yeah.
And, did them well.
There's a couple of points in there I want to double click on. So Paddy Cummins, they interviewed him after, and they were like, what is it about Australian teams that just win finals? There's a point he raised that's really good. He was like, we grew up watching the early 2000 team dominate the sport. And so that's all they know. They know Australian teams being victorious, Australian teams going and winning World Cup finals. And so I know the cliche saying is it's in their DNA, but it literally is, as kids watching them win. Whereas, you look at the Indian team, but also many other teams, you've never seen your peers win a final. And so there's that much added pressure on you, right? That's one. And then we'll talk about stadiums and crowds and stuff later, especially, Liverpool. There's a whole thing with teams going to Liverpool and losing big finals. But what else do you think adds to that pressure element for home teams?
How do you sort of not even solve it, but like how do they sort of overcome it? Is it just years of going to finals and taking that pressure on, and playing in your home ground versus playing in a different country? Like, it's challenging, right? There's no consistency with that, right? So
you almost need the pressure. It's easy to say the pressure not to be on them, but any top grade team,
you almost need pressure on them all the time, the same intense layer of pressure. So then by the time they get to the final, it's nothing new for them, right? So it just becomes normal. Whereas like I found like leading up to it, like hitting, smashing out stats already out of the park, you're seeing like Tendulkar stats being compared. I was like, wow, they're going great. Like, there could not be any better team right now. And then right at the end, just like, what was it? Was it the Australian sort of initial bowlers that sort of chucked them out of whack? Like, something happened early on, which is spun everyone, right? Like,
I think give credit to Pat Cummins and the senior team, the senior boys in that team. I think you heard afterwards how they, evaluated the pitch, the soil that was in the pitch, the conditions. They read it perfectly. I think and the tactics they used, it was. I think Pat Cummins and the senior boys coaching staff did a brilliant job that day.
Yeah,
and playing it cool doesn't like playing through your strategy throughout the whole game. So when things fail early on. Like, let's say after 10 overs, and people, like a losing team, they always try to readjust. And when someone tries to readjust, that's when they buckle. They fall off really quickly because they're they're always readjusting. In this case, they're just stuck by the original strategy. Yeah. And pretty much as soon as when it came time, like, it actually properly executed, they had enough time to develop it, tweak a small amount of things, but actually like knocked it out of the park, right? Which is impressive. Whereas if you compare to any other sport, it's super different. Like, like in rugby, like the short line drop out, that's like, why are you doing that when you're already getting belted? Like, that's a terrible decision. And they're like, in their head, they're like, this is the most epic thing we can do right now. Like, so it's just different.
Yeah. Strategy and execution. And I think as well, it tilted. So India throughout this tournament, but also over the past couple of years with all their young players, they have this reputation of being carefree, and essentially the idea is they're all rich, they're famous, they don't care about cricket. So they go out and play like that. But for the first time this series, and also probably for the last couple of years, you could see the pressure on the shoulders. Like when they were 3 wickets down, they were scared to make that next step and take it back to the opposition and put pressure back on, knowing that there's so much at stake. Yep. So I think that plays a part as well. But at the end of the day, Australia, better team on the day, better execution of strategy. Pat Cummins, I've been a big critic of him as a bowling captain, but also all his other crap. But he's really grown on me. He's a brilliant player. I've always said he's a brilliant player, but in terms of captaincy, he's really come around the last, 18, 24 months.
Yep. And I think that's one thing with Pat Cummins is I don't think you see what he does. And when he comes to the media, he's got this front where he's like a nice, happy guy. But I'm sure behind the scenes, he's probably ruthless with his guys,
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure he's like, he doesn't approach like in this old school style, management thing. But I'm pretty sure he's got control of the boys. The boys know what he wants.
Yeah.
And he's on top of it. So and it's great for the image of the Australian captain. It's beautiful. Like, this looks friendly, well polished guy. And then speaks really well. And but I'm sure behind the scenes he's got control of that team.
Yeah. What other teams have you seen stand up to pressure that well? There's obviously the Australian cricket team. Penrith Panthers, last couple of years they've had to lose a grand final to now win 3 in a row.
Not the Wallabies.
Yeah. Yeah, that's can have a whole podcast on that.
But you're right. Like, you don't see too many dynasties that are in other sports, right? Like, everyone goes through the cycles where it's like, they dominate for a little bit, but then they drop off again. There hasn't been a team, I can't think of any sports where just always dominating.
Yeah. Well, All Blacks have had they're always either winning or there or thereabouts in finals.
Yeah.
They've kind of fallen off a bit.
But they're not number one now, though.
Not now, but for like 20 plus years.
Yeah.
They were unstoppable. Like the old team, like with Dan Carter's days, like they were unstoppable, right? Like you could not. And like any time a new player would slow down. Like another team that comes into mind was like pretty much the Storm, right?
Yeah.
Like they lose key players.
Yeah.
They slot some junior in and they're still playing as a perfect unit. I was like, how does that happen? Because as soon as they've lost a key player, I'm like, wow, that team's going to go to garbage next year. No. He's got a system that works and everyone's got their role and he just sticks by. I was like, I've never seen that before in a team for that consistent amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
Thanks for your contribution. He's gone back to thinking about the NBA.
There you go. Something you were going to say, something you were talking about before is the impact captains have on teams.
Yeah.
Leadership and captains are a good point, but also leaders in general. I think it's underrated. Someone without a C next to their name can also have a massive influence on teams or, a club or a country. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, like, think about the business world, sporting world. Leaders are quite important. Taking they're the ones take the company, take sport team in the direction they want to go. But I was thinking about this. Like, in what business world, what sort of sporting category does a captain have more influence on the outcome? And I think cricket is one of the best examples where a captain has got a much bigger say in the outcome of the team. And I've seen this through the history of cricket, especially in the World Cups. Go back to what Kapil Dev in '83, he took like a bunch of nobodies, won a World Cup. Alan Border in '87, like Australia was very weak back then. He managed to somehow get these boys, riled up enough to go win a World Cup. And one of my favourite ones is probably the Sri Lanka in '96. I think he's one of the great captains of Nigerian Rantunga. Like, I wouldn't say he was like the best player out there, but he managed to get a team together, which it was at the time a bunch of nobodies. Got him to win a World Cup in '96. And so I think like a captain in cricket can have a huge influence on the outcome of those teams. And a great example is what there's Pat Cummins in the current World Cup where Australia had a pretty horrible start to the tournament, but they, like I said, they stuck to their plans. They believed in themselves, and they got through at the end.
Good point. No mention of Ajinkya Rahane in the overseas Test series versus Australia.
No, I missed that series.
But yeah, it's a good point, and lots of parallels as well. I guess when we won the premiership, B7s, decent captain there too.
Well, in saying that, like, it may bring that point up, but like even though there's a captain, like he needs a good senior sporting, like senior player group behind him as well, and with Pat Cummins as well, he had like Dave Warners, Mitchell Stark, Hazelwood, like, well experienced players who they might not be the face of the team, but behind the scenes they are putting a lot of input into the decisions. And that was the same when we played our B7s. I had a good group of boys behind me who helped me make this. Look, I wouldn't say I'm the smartest cricket mind person there, but so I did rely on other boys to sort of help me put the right decisions in place. But as a unit, we managed to pull that. And look, that year, we weren't the strongest team in the comp. But it's one of those things where, come semi-finals, finals, we managed to put it together, and we won. And that's what makes me more proud of that team. In that, like boys who probably didn't perform as well throughout the season, come finals, they knew they're worth in the team and they performed. And that's what it sort of comes down to in the people management part of it, where you got to believe in your team, believe in the plan, and just got to hope that it executes well at the right time. And that's what we did.
So what you're talking about there is the other C, which is culture, right?
100%.
So you got the captain who sets sort of the tone, but if a few other key players aren't setting the same culture, you pretty much deteriorate everything straight away, right? So and what you had was people that were living and breathing by the same sort of values.
They bought
and
into
then
it.
And then basically you've then got a chain effect of that, because everyone fits into that unit, which is critical. Which is absolutely critical, because if you don't have that working, captain in my view is useless.
And to your point as well, like when I was captain of the team, like one of my inspirations, one of my favorite players was Steve Waugh, and I think he's Australia's greatest captain ever. And he had that ruthlessness about him, where he created a culture and sort of pushed on the boys to sort of buy in and accept that's the culture. And I don't think he did it in a forceful way, but the boys wanted to play for him, and that's when Australia was absolutely dominant. And then you see that just when Ponty took over, it just continued, because Steve Waugh set that standard, and that's sort of was my inspiration. Like when I started B7s, I think you I don't know if you remember I was just it was all about making the culture right, where it's like we walk on the field as a team, we did everything as a team. It was always never about individuals. We win as a team, lose as a team. We always got to help each other get better, because there's no point in competing within each other. We got to go out there and perform as a team, and then that's the culture we sort of set. And in the end, mate, we all contributed to that win at the end of the day, and that's what and that's something I took from Steve Waugh. So I think he was a great captain.
Yeah, and it's right. Like as you're saying, it's transferred from one sort of captain to another captain. I feel like after that Ponting era, it didn't sort of continue. It's sort of going off a cliff, right? Because like that same mentality didn't get followed through, right? So when all these new recruits started slotting in, that had no idea about the culture, the vision, anything, right? So you got to keep working on it, and like they got to keep reiterating why you're doing certain things, right? So absolutely.
I think at that point as well, culture and generations clashed, because then Michael Clark came in and the whole generational type of player changed as well. It wasn't less about being old school and less about playing tough and aggressive off the field as well as on the field. It was more, performance based. It was all about the glamour. It was all about selling yourself off the field as well. And, that had to bring a new culture. And that's why Patrick is probably a good example of that. And he's taken it to new levels.
Yep, agree.
Go well, Patrick.
Were you saying about and I'll carry on this a little bit longer while Kev scrolls through, but every other sport, the captain, like let's say soccer as an example, it's a coach who's on the firing line, right? The team don't perform, coach is on the chopping block straight out.
Like the manager coach, correct.
And if the coaches, if I then apply this to NRL teams, if the coach has gone through several iterations and that's not working out, then the CEO and board get under pressure, right? So it's a real mix. Like you come back and maybe not the captain gets blamed, but it's not, they're not held accountable properly, right? It's always a coach, because it's like you're making the calls. You screwed up here. Yeah, they're not physically on the field, and they're not seeing what's actually happening. But there's an assumption, right? So,
and that was my point. I was saying, I think because with other sports, I don't see the captain as having that much influence on the result. Where, like I say, in NRL, a footy team loses, you don't even know the captain sometimes. You sort of blame the coach, you blame the halfback, and the captain could be some other random guy. And then so.
I think your role of captains in other sports is to inspire, whereas cricket's inspire and strategize.
That's right, exactly.
Which is NRL, like you can still potentially inspire a team to victory, but you're literally having yourself beat up, taking the hard runs or whatever. But cricket's hard because you also have to strategize on the go, and as well as bowl 20 overs in a row.
Definitely tough. It's definitely like mental fatigueness, right? Like it hits you. So you got to make sure you're there for the long run, and if things aren't working, you still got to stick by your guns, right? So it's critical.
We have our Park Cricket, brought to you by Park Cricket KO Sports, moment of the week. Hubert, have you got a moment of the week for us from your multiple games captaining?
So I got one story with so this is with my brother. So when we were little kids, we went and bought some bats. We went to India, so that was a long time ago. We bought that like in 2000, and so my brother bought a Sassenger. I bought this SS bat. You know, I played for years and changed the bat, whereas I think he liked that bat and stuck with it. So coming was like 10, 12 years later, he's still using the same bat, sort of falling apart. All the edges are falling off, but he loved that bat. So I remember one game we were playing Seven Hills, and he walks out with the bat. You know, it's all falling apart, and then he's just copying from the other team, saying, your bat looks rubbish. You know, they call it the butter knife. So, but next thing you know, he's out there smacking 6s and 4s just for fun, and I think that sort of shut them up. Where and I think the nickname butter knife stuck to that bat because I think he still uses it today.
Yeah.
So, and this is like what we're talking 23 years later, he still uses it. So he loves that bat, and it's just a funny story where sometimes you underestimate the something might look crap, but something sometimes more the player than the bat as well. So
yeah,
so that's a pretty funny story.
Nothing better than turning a sledge 360. Yeah. It's worse because he would have gone out and bowled too. So why would you sledge a bowler?
Oh. That's right, Kev. Why would you sledge a bowler?
That's good. Good on Willie and the butter knife. Ash, you've been semi-active in the group chat this week. What's on the group chat, man?
Ooh. Well, there was an outage, big outage.
Yeah.
And that seemed to have taken everyone by surprise. And then our former premier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Gladys got a bit of the meme material. So what was going on? We're trying to figure out what was going on. Some CEO messages, and we've figured out what's her position in this.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting time that happened, right? So would they call it a technical outage? Is that they refer to it, or some sort of update?
It was
doing a software update, wasn't it?
Was it a software update? I think to turn it back on, they had to manually go and do things to routers and things like that, right? It's crazy in this day and age.
Yeah. So how crazy that is, and then the CEO's left, right? So she's resigned.
Yeah.
I think she resigned.
Oh, has she?
Yeah, and the CFO's come into place now as a temporary assignment.
Yeah.
And they're trying to sort of plug that gap. So watch this space, right? I mean, it is tough, right? Someone's pushed. Let's say in this case it's an update. Someone's pushed an update. That update's gone all the way to the CEO. The CEO now has to resign.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
Of course, there's an impact on businesses and everywhere else. So we went down to local shopping centre that day. And FBOS machines were out for the local sushi, shop. So they're go back to cash, and I'm like, throughout COVID, everyone's like, no cash, we just want card, right? So this business had just stopped. Yeah. And they said, go get cash, right? So I was like, oh well, it's taking a toll.
Well, see, I think in that group chat, we sort of, some people were frustrated with the way, because I was frustrated because I was an Optus customer, lost connection, and I was frustrated in the way that CEO didn't come out and tell what was happening. And I think that's what I thought. As you are ultimately responsible for what your company's doing. At least it's not your fault, but come out and tell, at least communicate with the public what's going on. So at least we're not sort of worried about, at least we know what's going on when, when he's going to come back. I think that's what was frustrating. And I think part of the comment was, do we think Gladys will be a good, option? And I think I was on the 4, I think she will be
100%. She's a great communicator.
Yeah.
She communicated with us
I think she did a good job there.
COVID numbers every day. You should have got her in front. They should have used her as a PR stunt.
I would have used a doctor. I preferred her. Do you know the doctor that was standing next to her?
Yeah.
Actual stats? Yes. I rated her a lot more with the actual details.
Carrie Chant? Was it Carrie Chant?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. No,
she was on point with everything.
Yeah.
So so I mean, giving an update would give you comfort. So let's say this outage happened.
It's more the unknown. I had no idea what was going on, when it was going to get fixed.
How would they give you the update?
Well, sort of saying, look,
you don't have reception, so let's go. Let's carry this on.
Well, the reason I knew about the outage was I put the TV on and the news was on saying Optus is out, but it was Michelle Rowland was coming out and giving me the updates. I'm like, right, I know you're the communication minister, but what do you know about this? It should be someone from Optus saying this.
Yeah. Or
someone from Optus should be coming out and talking about this. So that's what frustrated me.
So let's use that. So let's say that's happened. I'm CEO of Optus. Let's say Gladys declines and says, Ash, you're the right guy. Okay,
Ash, you have your GAI CD.
Yeah, that's right. I'm up and coming soon. So let's say I used all my polished qualifications and I say, hey, look, guys, there's an outage. I need to get in front of the media and just say there's an outage. We don't know what's caused it. would that give you more uncertainty? Because people try to control these conversations, right? Because companies don't want to show that there's vulnerabilities, right? So what happens?
Who knows?
Would you be happy if I just went on TV and say, hey, look, there is an outage. We're telling you the truth.
Yeah.
We don't know how long it's going to take, but there is an outage. We're trying to fix it. We've got all the right people on it.
Yeah.
Would that give you some sort of comfort saying, hey, look, we're on it?
Yeah.
Or would you just rather them go quiet and be like,
No, being quiet is the wrong move.
Yeah.
I mean, but look,
Over communicate all times.
Yeah, that's right. And look, it doesn't have to be her as well. She could have put a technical guy up the front, but then that didn't happen as well. So, it was just no one from Optus was coming up. And that's what frustrated me. Like, it didn't have to be her, but someone should have come and be like, look, this is what's happening. Like, at least give us some sort of updates. At least so we know roughly when things are going to come back online.
Yeah.
Something like that, Look, and things happen. It's not like, you can't be frustrated. Mistakes happen, whatever, but at least tell us what's happening.
Yeah.
The unknown's what was sort of frustrating me.
I didn't like how did you guys see the Senate inquiry? Was it Senate inquiry or whatever they called that inquiry? How they were asking her questions, the CEO questions. It's just like rude, not professional. And it's like, mate, if your politicians can't be professional in like, how you're going to expect the public to deal with each other professionally or with courtesy? It's like just because your company made a mistake, courtesy's out the window. There's no professionalism. We're allowed to be rude to you with how we question you. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, just a field day to them, right? So and then it sort of breaks you down because then you got these lower grade almost politicians being like, oh yeah, I can put my 2 cents in here and really ask the hard questions. And you're like, you added zero value to this. And your opinions, like no one cares.
Yeah.
Because you've just repeated whatever the other bloke has said.
That's right, yeah.
So you're like, this is once again achieve nothing. I mean, Australia Post went through the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And effectively, they didn't find the CEO accountable right at the end for any of that stuff, right? But at that time, she was pressured pretty much into leaving, right?
Yeah.
And right at the end when they found out, they're like, actually, it's not her. Like the call she made, it wasn't her thing.
Yeah.
So, like that's nuts, right? Because initially your brand gets tarnished.
Yeah.
Massively.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So like it's interesting to see how much communication. You said over communicate, but you're like at what stage? Because you like if you give a bit of unrest or like any of that sort of stuff, people do not react well either, right? So you almost got to control it in the sense of going, we know there's something wrong. Yeah. We're on it.
Yeah.
We're on it, and we'll keep you updated every hour.
Yeah.
And then people come back and be like, oh, at least they're going to tell me, or the media outlets or whatever, right? So.
There's a lot of logistics things as well. Like imagine the CEO, you need to communicate. What do you do? Call up every news station and say, hey, I'm about to make an announcement. Come to our doorstep.
Yeah, you can do like media releases. You can do you control like the media comes to your place or whatever it is.
Yeah,
like, you don't talk to each one individually.
Yeah, like I know, but there's like logistically, it's also something for her team then to resolve instead of focusing on the actual problem. So I get
there is a PR team.
I know.
Yeah, but it does make sense. Like having like as in like there's no one number you could dial. Like hey, media outlets come now.
Yeah,
I'm going to give. Exactly. So there's probably avenues that they just communicate quickly, or it might just be a letter out to all the agencies, right? But as part of that earlier conversation with the board, that should have been part of their risk strategy, right? Like if this stops, what do we do? Like what's the business continuity plan here, right?
Yeah.
Who goes and speaks to who?
Yeah.
Who does what? And all that obviously got signed off at some stage and has been on Optus's radar for many, many years. But they probably thought it was a low, likelihood of risk. That's right. And because it's so low, everyone's sort of like, how's that plan? You're like, yeah, it's all right. Like, we'll just roll it over for next year.
Yeah.
When it actually happens, you're just like, whoa, like, where's that plan again, right?
Yeah.
Like, you look it through every board meeting effectively, but it gets skipped, right? So what they're probably more after is going, cyber security attacks. That's probably the number one priority.
Yeah.
So this thing happened to like that wasn't meant to happen.
Yeah.
So it's just changed the whole dynamic, right? So
yeah.
It's different. Yeah. Definitely different.
I'm sure it'll change a few things up in Singtel, but we'll find out.
Absolutely.
Good chat, guys. Catch you next episode.
All right. See you guys.
Lego.